Hey, what happened? Okay, I think we are live. Let's see on here. Okay, so I'm supposed to do all this checking the sounds and stuff before I start, but hey. Um, welcome back, welcome back. Good evening, everybody. Hi, Joy. Right, can you hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay? Let's see. So, today or this evening, we are at part 3 of our talk, and then there will be a 4th part on Saturday, just to let you know. 4th and final part. So I want to, we are getting to the end of the series. So I want to touch on something today that I think will help you as you journal and as you start your healing process. Hey, thanks for letting me know you can hear okay. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the importance of our thoughts. Okay, so we touched on it a little bit, but let's explain, or let's give you some pointers on the importance of the thoughts. And because your thoughts fashion your reality, okay, our thoughts, I include myself, fashion our reality. Because unlike most popular beliefs out there, our brain in itself does not control us, but our thoughts generate the signal that will tell the brain um, what to do, and then well, I should say, the thoughts generate a signal that stimulate the brain, and then the brain tells the body what to do. Okay, so there before the brain there is a, a, a layer or precursor to what the um, neural response. Okay, so now if you are a Christian like me, then you may have read the verse that says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." That's in Proverbs 23. Now, if you're not a Christian, you'll actually notice that this same concept is found in most of the holy writings, most of the religious books on a wide range of religion. Okay, so that lets us know that this concept is very important. Throughout the ages, ancient religion, modern religion, but any holy writing, if you really look into it, you will find this concept that the mind, or as the man thinks in his heart or in his mind, so is he. So there must be some kind of divine being out there that is, I call him God, whatever you call him, but is trying to tell us something. We need to look into this mind a little bit deeper, okay? So that is because the quality of every cell in our body is based on how we think, and especially the long-term pattern of thinking. We may have a reaction to something that's a temporary reaction, temporary release of hormones and energy to our body. But when we have a long-term pattern of thinking, then it's definitely affecting our cells in our body. Okay, so fortunately, science has caught up a little bit, and now we know that, like we said, whatever our mind thinks or whatever our mind focuses on, then that's what our body does. Okay, it influences our body's reaction. So we used to think the opposite. We used to think that the brain dictated what the mind and the body did, but now science shows that actually the mind and how we think, how we feel, then affects what the brain does. So our thought determine our hormones, what hormones are released, when, how much of it, how long, and our thoughts also tell our brain to tell our body how we work and how we move, and also how we shut down. So there are several publications out there. There are several things that show us that several research that have shown that the majority of mental, physical, emotional illness come from the toxic thoughts, such as anxiety, such as fear, or stress. So, for example, there's the American Psychological Association. They say that about 75 to 98% of our illnesses come from toxic thought pattern. The Department of Health and Human Services says that about 50 to 80% of the symptoms that we complain about can be traced back to fear, to anxiety, or to stress. Same thing. And the American Institute of Stress, they actually have a similar numbers. They say 75 to 90%. So at the end of the day, the takeaway is simply that our thoughts can make us ill. But also, fortunately, our thoughts can make us well. So that's what we need to focus on. Hi. Oh, hey, Kazana. How are you? That's not Kajana. Well, I forget because you guys don't put your names on there. I think it's Kajana. It's nice to see you on. So let's see. Let's get back on. So our existence is based on two driving forces. Okay, when you think of our thoughts, there are two main thoughts or two main bases, I guess, two main foundation for our thoughts. So science has shown that we are born naturally hardwired to love. And actually the Bible again says that the key ingredient to our existence are trust or faith, also hope and love. The most important ingredient being love. And we know that God is love. So it's just as simple as that. Okay, so fear thoughts are toxic and they create addiction, mental illness, chronic disease. But then loving thoughts, on the other hand, they will bring life, they will bring healing, along with joy, peace, meaningful relationship, purpose, and so on. So your outlook or your individual interpretation of life is based on either love or fear. And so, for example, two people can be in the same place at the same time, hear the same thing, but they can interpret or experience the situation totally differently depending on their driving thought pattern. Okay, so let me give you some examples to that. So personal example, I have a very strong sense of smell, and a certain smell actually remind me of certain things and certain people, and they bring out certain emotions. And so I love the smell of airport. I told my husband that and he said, what is the smell of airport? He does not have that sense of smell like I do, or a strong smell memory. But I love the smell of airport. Some of you may have noticed that airport has a distinctive smell that is left on you, on your clothes, when you travel. And I love that smell because growing up, my father used to travel for work, and when he would come home, he had his trench coat or his clothes, and they would smell like airport. So the smell of airport for me, that means reunion. It brings joy, closure, security, and love. And even now, when my parents come to visit, I can experience those same emotion when I hug them. But on the other hand, for somebody who is afraid of flying, for example, that same very smell can bring back very unpleasant memories and even trigger anxiety. Okay, so same smell. We could be walking by somebody who's just coming out of the airport, and you get a whiff of that smell, and I'm feeling, oh, I can't wait to hug my parents again, and I feel so good and confident, and somebody else is all of a sudden tense and anxious because they remember that bad experience of flying, or just a bad feeling when they fly. Okay, so that's a very simplistic example, but it shows you how two different people in the same situation can interpret or experience things completely differently. So why do I share this with you? Simply because as you go through your 21 days of journaling and renewing your thoughts on that particular specific addiction, and also the emotional attachment to the addiction, I want you to focus on separating the fact and your interpretation of the facts. Okay? So, your father not coming by to pick you up on the weekends does not mean that you're unlovable. Okay? Two different things. There's the fact, what did or did not happen, and then there's your interpretation of what happened. Okay? Um, Let me give you another example. I heard a mental health professional share one time in an interview how her mother, she was so loving. She loved to serve, and she would not want her daughter to lift a finger for anything. So anytime she saw her daughter attempting to do something, then she would say, "Oh, here, honey, let me do this for you. Don't worry, mommy can do it." Okay. So would you know that the daughter really never got the message, my mommy loves me so much, and she will do anything for me? She actually instead got the message, I am incapable of doing anything myself. So on one hand, her mother is doing all those things for her because she loves her. Now the reaction or the interpretation of the child was, I am incapable of doing anything by myself, or doing anything well, or accomplishing anything by myself. Okay. Now that one really resonated with me. That was an example where, um, again, the actions and the interpretation of the action may be skewed depending on your outlook. Okay. Um, so there are the facts and there are the interpretation of the facts. So maybe when you go back and you revisit the feelings that you've had from different experiences or trauma, uh, maybe look at it from a different angle, and always apply that as much as you can, that love perspective. Okay. You have the freedom to choose what kind of thoughts you're harboring. You decide how you want your mind to operate and how you want your body to be wired. Do you want to be wired in love, in joy, freedom, and release? Or do you want to be wired with stress, anxiety, tense, unforgiveness, fear, and all those kind of things? Okay, so we do have to choose. The Bible says, again in Deuteronomy, I've placed before you what? Life and death. Choose life so that your children may live. We cannot serve two masters. You cannot say that you are filling up with love and also have fear. It's a constant struggle, but um, it is the truth. We do have to constantly choose um, how we see or interpret what we experience and what our reaction is going to be. Okay? So when it comes to food and food addiction, many of us try to find like this magic pill or magic diet, and we want the formula that's going to solve our problems. What should I eat if I want to lose weight? How many calories? I could count my calories all the time. You want a step-by-step instruction on what to do. We have that checklist. But then what usually happen? You guys tell me what usually happen when you have that checklist, you have your pills, you're counting your calories. Well, at some point, we decide to compromise. Okay, we try to rationalize and say, well, I can do a little bit of this, but not that. Or maybe I'm going to have 4 scoops of ice cream and then I'll go on a run for like 10 miles. Or then after the ice cream, then I'll have some kale and it'll be okay. Um, so it might be difficult to hear, but that's really not how it works, okay? Yes, you need the kale, yes, you need the exercise in your life, but we have to do a little bit more work than that. And actually, there are studies out there that have found that about 80% of our nutritional gain from what we eat, even from the most nutritious meals that we have, 80% of the nutrition that we gain from the food really comes from how we're thinking and how we're feeling when we're eating. Okay, because our thoughts affect our hormonal response for our digestion and our assimilation of the food. Okay, so you eating, um, you're doing the right thing only really gets you about 20% of the way if your thoughts are in the wrong place when you're eating and throughout the day also. All right. So thinking the right thing and living a life in harmony with who you are and who you are created to be will get you to that other 80%. Okay. If you are eating a salad, this big bowl of salad is what I'm going to eat, but you're eating it because as a punishment, for being fat or for having eaten this bag of cookies or whatever, then you are getting very little benefit from that salad. Only 20% of the nutritional value of that salad is getting in because you're thinking, I'm a bad person and I need to eat this food right now. That's if you are running on a treadmill, for example, that's not food, that's exercising. But if you are exercising because you're disgusted by your body or you just again punishing yourself for having eaten ice cream, for example, then what you're doing is pretty much just getting tired and it's not helping you. You're not getting the full benefit that you should be getting. Okay. So, of course, those are examples. I'm oversimplifying, but you get the picture. That's the idea. Okay. So, the choice is yours. And I should say the choice is ours because I still have a lot of work to do for myself. But the choice is ours to operate from a place of love. And because the change comes through us, it comes through our choices and how we think and how we feel. This is from our thoughts. Then processing those thoughts, interpretation of the thoughts, and making some choices. So always try to get into that outlook of love instead of fear, of love instead of shame and condemnation and stress and anxiety. And you'll be able to see more success and be the best version of yourself. So I want you to try every single day to just choose to be the best version of yourself. If you can do that, you will notice that every day you're getting better and better. You are living more fully and more abundantly, because that is the goal after all, having a more abundant life. All right. So that's all I had for you today. I know it's a lot of information, but key concept: choose love. Okay. Try to look at everything, even past experiences, from an outlook of love. Try to dissociate the facts from the interpretation of the fact, and maybe reconsider your interpretation from looking at a different angle, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, even asking them questions if that's possible. Um, Whatever affected you, try to separate the fact from that interpretation of that feeling that you got about yourself. Okay. um, so here we go. If you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to post your questions. I will answer them as I see them. And our last part in this series is going to be on Saturday afternoon, and I'll have a special guest. So it will be in the form of an interview. So I will be posting more details about that throughout the rest of the week, and I'll see you then. You guys have a good evening.